Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy. And in today's video, I'm bringing you guys a 12-team PPR mock draft from the 4th overall spot on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. Inside of this video, we are going to be talking about my strategy for this pick, what I believe is the best strategy for the 4th pick in a 12-team PPR league, as well as talking about the picks going on around me so that you guys can get a better overall feel of how I feel about drafting at this spot and how the draft feels overall. So, before we get into it, this is a 1 quarterback draft, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. Like I said, we're drafting on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard, so we're drafting up against the El Computador. We are going to be drafting up against Yahoo's pre-draft rankings today. So, before I get into this mock draft, I'd like to ask if you guys are new to the channel, if you can go down below and click that subscribe button. It's free, and I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. So without further ado, let's get right into the video here. So, like I said, this is a 12-team league from the 4th overall spot. So, this is a spot that to many may be difficult now. It used to not be difficult. It's either you're locking in Zeke or Kamara there, whichever one was going to fall to you. Typically, Alvin Kamara was the pick at the 104 because Zeke was typically the 103. The first 4 players coming off the board were typically universally Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, and Ezekiel Elliott, and that is exactly what we ended up seeing to begin this draft. CMC, Saquon Barkley, and then Ezekiel Elliott. So now we are up to our pick. Now, to me, I don't think Alvin Kamara is going to hold out. I just don't think so. I think Alvin Kamara plays week 1, and I think this is something that we are going to end up forgetting about a couple of weeks into the season. He ended up getting a shot for his joint inflammation inside of his back, which obviously does worry some people. To me, I'm not all too worried. The doctors that I saw talking about it didn't seem all that concerned as well. So I think he'll be fine. To me, he's the pick at the 104. If you want to be safe, if you are scared of Alvin Kamara holding out, if you are scared of anything happening to Alvin Kamara's back because he had to get that shot in his SI joint. So if you want to do that, draft Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is by far the safest pick at the 104 if you're nervous about Alvin Kamara. Otherwise, Alvin Kamara is the safest pick. This guy is amazing year in and year out. He has so much pass catching upside, so much rushing upside on one of the best offenses in the whole NFL. So to me, that's an insta pick for Alvin Kamara at the 104. I wouldn't even debate thinking about going anyone else there, really, unless you felt the extreme risk. If you felt that Alvin Kamara was an extreme risk to your roster, then you can go Derrick Henry, or in my opinion, you could also go Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is going to be amazing as well. I'm really not on the Dalvin Cook train due to the fact that the guy just seems to get hurt every year. Sure, last year he played a bunch of games. I was very happy for him because the guy played outstanding when he's healthy, and I think he will do that again this season. But the question is, when is he healthy? And then when you draft Dalvin Cook, you are stuck in a box of also drafting Alexander Mattison later. So it's 2 players for 1, where I'd much rather just play the price of 1 of Alvin Kamara, just being Alvin Kamara. But if you want to draft later to make sure if he holds out, you can draft Latavius Murray in like the 10th round, but his ADP is not really skyrocketing up all that much since the news of a trade happening to Alvin Kamara kind of died down. So after we went ahead and drafted Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry came out the board, followed by C.E.H., Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, and then a wide receiver run of 2, Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams, followed by Nick Chubb, Julio Jones, and Tyreek the Freak Hill. That ended the first round, and that was the beginning of the second round with Tyreek. Second round is comprised of Tyreek Hill, Kenyon Drake, George Kittle, Me Timbers, Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Travis Kelce, and Ron Jones. So now it is our time to go ahead and draft some running backs and wide receivers here in the next couple of rounds. Here, we saw 2 tight ends come off the board, very typical in the second round. We should see Lamar and Pat Mahomes follow suit. At wide receiver, we've seen 4 come off the board. The first 2 rounds of the draft are super duper heavily dominated by the running back position. You never really see wide receivers come off the board all that often until about the 3rd, 4th round, because then the running back value falls off the board, and then you're going to start seeing guys hammer the wide receiver position around the end of the 2nd round into the 3rd round. So here, it feels like it's going to be a barren wasteland at the running back position. Let me check real quick. Yeah, it is. This is the problem with picking here in a 12-team league. This is why I like being towards the back half of the first round. If it was my preference to choose, I'd be picked like 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 because I feel like I can get 2 stud running backs back-to-back, whereas here, I feel like I'm reaching if I take a running back here. I don't really feel ultra confident in Todd Gurley being my second-round pick at all. I don't feel confident with Connor being my second-round pick, or Chris Carson, or Le'Veon Bell, or Melvin Gordon. So this is the position you are stuck in. Now you have to go wide receiver. You legitimately have no other choice unless you want to go with Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, which in my opinion is a bad decision because the quarterbacks you can find super late, whereas these wide receivers, sure, you can find wide receivers late, but the wide receivers that are available, you're not going to be able to find a guy as consistent as the guys that are available right now later in the draft. So here we're going to go ahead and select a wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins still available, Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay. To me, I have Chris Godwin ranked the highest of these wide receivers. I could 100% see DeAndre Hopkins being a top 3 wide receiver. He's been it in the past. Deshaun Watson just got paid. Obviously, not on the same team, but Deshaun Watson got paid because DeAndre Hopkins was so good and because he was throwing the ball to him. Now, Deshaun Watson is a very good player as well, but it obviously doesn't hurt to have DeAndre Hopkins, and a young quarterback like Kyler Murray will be very happy that DeAndre Hopkins is there. I think Hopkins could have a great season, but overall, I feel much safer with Chris Godwin. This guy was a baller every single game last season. He was one of the best wide receivers in fantasy football, and he wasn't even the wide receiver 1 of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now it seems like in targets, at least, he is the number 1 guy for Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think Chris Godwin is going to have an excellent season in 2020. I think we see him have yet another absolute boom of a year. So I'm going to go ahead and draft Mr. Chrissy Godwin here of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll probably be stuck drafting another wide receiver inside of the next round. Now, a decent wide receiver run did end up coming off the board after our pick of D-Hop and then Allen Robinson, James Conner, Pat Mahomes, Adam Thielen, and Kenny Golladay. So now we have to draft a wide receiver here. There's just not enough good running back value here, I still believe, so I'm not going to draft a running back. I just don't feel obligated to reach up here and pick a running back that I just don't think is going to be any good. That's the problem with going into a draft with a given strategy. You might think, Nick, you always tell me to try to get 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. That is my main goal of drafts. But if the running backs aren't there, you have to pivot because it's not worth it to reach on a guy like Gurley, in my opinion, who I don't think will get enough snaps to be worth it. A guy who I think will end up probably getting hurt, and a guy that is on the most pass-heavy offense in the NFL and is a running back. You can just add those all together, quick maths, and it equals not so good for a fantasy football running back. So I'm not going to draft him. I'm not reaching up on him. I'd rather just take a safe pick here and go wide receiver. Now, the only pick that I would argue could be fine here, I'm starting to move up more on Chris Carson. I like Le'Veon Bell. You could pick them there, but there's a chance that some of those guys are available in the 4th round since the 3rd round is so heavily dominated by the wide receiver position, since so many people, at least at the back half of the draft, already have 2 running backs, since going 2 robust running back strategy towards the end of the 1st round is going to be your best strategy to do there, since you can really load up there and then load up on some wide receivers in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. So here we are going to snag our next wide receiver, and to me that is DJ Moore. The other guys that were still available, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr., Robert Woods. I just don't think any of those guys are on the echelon of DJ Moore. Mike Evans actually kind of is, but we already have Chris Godwin, and while I find it perfectly okay if you're going to draft a guy like Matt Ryan, and then you draft a guy like Julio Jones, or you're drafting Julio Jones, and then you draft a guy like Hayden Hurst later in the draft, guys that are spread apart in the draft on the same team, but I'm not trying to draft 2 wide receivers on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2nd and 3rd round. It would have completely worked out for you last year because those guys were absolutely bending over defenses, but I just don't think it's worth it early in the draft to stack them together. Last year it would have been much easier to do because Chris Godwin's ADP was much lower. Now, obviously, Chris Godwin is going ahead of Mike Evans due to the fact that I don't think a lot of people believe in Mike Evans scoring as many touchdowns this season since Gronk is there, and since they have Leonard Fournette there, who will probably end up barreling into the end zone a million goddamn times. So we're going to go with DJ Moore here of the Carolina Panthers. DJ Moore could be the guy leading the NFL in receiving yards. I would not be surprised about that. I think Teddy Bridgewater is an upgrade from what we had most of last season in Kyle Allen for the Carolina Panthers, and I think that this offense runs very similarly to the New Orleans Saints offense. It's either get the ball to Kamara by throwing it to him, hand it to Alvin Kamara, or throw it to Michael Thomas. It's either hand it to Christian McCaffrey, throw it to Christian McCaffrey, or throw it to DJ Moore. That is their only options. And DJ Moore only scored 4 touchdowns last season, and I personally believe that is going to be much higher this season, and that DJ Moore has an excellent season again. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL for fantasy-wise, and I think that he is going to have a excelente season in 2020. So after we went ahead and drafted Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, our team is Alvin Kamara, Chris Godwin, and DJ Moore, both wide receivers that have bye 13, which doesn't affect me at all. I'm not really kind of someone who's trying to who cares too much about the buys while I'm drafting. Plus, by 13, they will already have clinched the playoffs for you. If they are both that good, you're already in the playoffs by week 13, so you just go ahead and bench them, and you don't give a fuck because you already clinched the playoffs because you're a god, and you stayed and watched every single video I make, or at least most of them, and now you're in the championship, so make sure you click that subscribe button for all the in-season content that I'm going to be producing starting Monday. So after we drafted DJ Moore, Mike Evans came off the board, followed by Chris Carson, Lamar Jackson, A.J. Brown, Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor, Odell Beckham Jr., Robert Woods, Todd Gurley, Mark Andrews, Mark Ingram, Juju Smith-Schuster, Terry McLaurin, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, and Tyler Lockett. So now we already have 2 wide receivers. We only have 1 running back, so we have to see the running backs still available. Guys I would have loved to have, though, Jonathan Taylor or Chris Carson. I love Jonathan Taylor. I'm one of his biggest fans. I really think that by week 4, this guy is going to be individually carrying the Indianapolis Colts offense to so many wins. This guy's a goddamn beast. He proved in college that he could get 300-plus touches a year. He did it 2 years in a row, I believe, in Wisconsin. He's a goddamn boss. He can carry the ball. They have the best offensive line in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. So what's not to like about that situation? Plus, they have Phillip Rivers, who literally just closes his eyes and dumps the ball off to the running back 7,000 goddamn times. And we did see a lot of wide receivers come off the board, just as suspected, in the 3rd and 4th round, as well as Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes coming in the 3rd round. Very typical, because the quarterbacks typically don't fall outside of the 3rd round because people's perception of them is always going to be very high, considering those guys are the best in the NFL at the quarterback position, but quarterbacks in fantasy football don't have as much value as they do in real life. So now it is time to go ahead and pick a running back or a wide receiver here. So Le'Veon Bell, to me, is the outright pick here. I just feel the most safe with him. I already have a good running back one in Alvin Kamara. Sure, I could go not Dalvin Cook here. I could go with Calvin Ridley here, who I think is going to have an excellent season as well. I could see him being a top 10 wide receiver, but I just feel like if I leave this 4th round without Le'Veon Bell, my running back 2 is not going to be as hot as I want it to be. And Le'Veon Bell, obviously, a lot of people hate Le'Veon Bell due to how he played last season. He was a top 12 pick in fantasy football. Some people drafted him inside of the top 5, and he absolutely screwed them over. His season last year was absolute dog shit. He wasn't efficient at all. So if you think that Le'Veon Bell is going to be that inefficient again, you're going to be very surprised when he doesn't run for 3 yards per carry. Even if he goes to like 4, just 4, his points are going to look so much better. He's a dump-off machine for Sammy Mano. So I just think he's going to have a much better season this year. Even if the team overall isn't so much better, you just have to think he would put up a better year this season. And in the 4th round, I feel like that's a super safe pick considering he was a top 17 running back last season, and you're getting him at a lower price than that in the 4th round. You just hope that he's a top 20 guy, and you'll be perfectly fine with the roster you can construct around Mr. Le'Veon Bell. So now back onto the draft board. After we went ahead and selected Le'Veon Bell, Raheem Mostert came off the board, followed by Zach Ertz, Calvin Ridley, Baby Chark, Baby Chark, David Johnson, as well as Cortland Sutton. So now it is our turn to make our 5th round selection. Nothing too out of the ordinary has really happened in the last couple of picks. So we're going to go ahead here and snag either a running back or a wide receiver. I have running back Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, Devin Singletary, James White, all still available. I feel like it's a little too early for some of those players. Sure, if I wanted a running back out of those guys, I'd probably just take Kareem Hunt. For the safety, if I wanted a lot of upside, I'd go with Cam Akers of the LA Rams, considering I think that he has a bunch of upside, but I think the 5th round is a little too early for Cam Akers. So we're probably going to go ahead and go with Keenan Allen here at this pick. The wide receivers are pretty good. I am kind of a big fan of DK Metcalf, but now with Josh Gordon there, it does kind of worry me slightly. Keenan Allen really has no competition in LA. Obviously, the competition is the fact that the quarterback play probably won't be all that great from Tyrod Taylor, as well as Justin Herbert the pervert, but at the end of the day, Keenan Allen is still a good wide receiver. Mike Williams is banged up, could be missing a week or 2 into the season, and Keenan Allen is going to get force-fed the ball. So I like Keenan Allen here inside of the 5th round as my wide receiver number 3 and as my flex option to start off my draft. So after I went ahead and drafted Keenan Allen, a bunch of wide receivers end up coming off the board, some running backs and some quarterbacks. So interesting that after we went ahead and drafted, or after a bunch of quarterbacks went off the board early of Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, there really wasn't any coming off the board all the way until the 6th round of the draft. So after we went with Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf came off the board, followed by T.Y. Hilton, Cam Akers, Hollywood Brown, Devontae Parker, Michael Gallup, DeAndre Swift, Leonard Fournette, Dakota Prescott, Russell Wilson, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Higbee, Kyler Murray, Tyler Boyd, Will Fuller, and Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson just got paid maybe $7 zillion goddamn dollars. They gave him the big bag because he's going to have to carry the Houston Texans team for the next bunch of years because they ended up getting rid of their best player in DeAndre Hopkins. So now it is all on Deshaun Watson's back, and they paid him handsomely for that. Like I said, the quarterback runs typically come around the 6th or 7th round, or maybe it comes in the 5th round of your league or the 4th round, because after someone picks a quarterback later, after Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson go, typically there's a bit of a wait, and then someone's going to pick Dak, or they're going to pick Kyler, or they're going to pick Russ, or they're going to pick Deshaun, and then the other guys follow suit soon after, and then boom, you end up with a quarterback run, which is very good for fantasy for your team, because now you're going to get much better value at running back or wide receiver instead of having to hop on the quarterback run, because you shouldn't do that. You should just find the value that is still available to you. So now looking at the board at the 609, very nice, and 69 overall. Very nice. We are going to go ahead here and go with a running back I feel somewhat confident in, and that is Kareem Hunt. Now, I like James White a lot as well, but I think we may be able to snag him inside of the next round. I think Kareem Hunt, if Nick Chubb was to go down. Now, that's a huge ask because Nick Chubb has never missed a game in the NFL due to injury. He has never gotten hurt yet. So that makes it a big ask. But if that was to happen, Kareem Hunt's a top 5 back. He just is. This team is going to run the ball so much that he can be that. If he does not get hurt, Kareem Hunt's still a flex option. He's still a running back, too, you can throw in there and feel pretty confident on during the week. He could be seeing a lot more touches than last season. I personally believe he will, due to the fact that head coach Kevin Stefanski is much more likely to be run-heavy than Coach Freddie Kitchens was last season. And the fact is, Kareem Hunt also gets a lot of work out of the backfield catching passes, which is very good for PPR. So I'm going to go ahead here and draft Mr. Kareem at pick 609 down to the 7th round. Hopefully James White ends up falling to me, and he does, because a bunch of quarterbacks ended up coming off the board, followed by a bunch of wide receivers, because no one later starts to draft running backs. They all get them early, and then the running backs still here late in the 7th round. I don't really hate all that much, but I still do prefer to stack up on those great running backs earlier. After we drafted Kareem Hunt, Matt Ryan came off the board, followed by Jarvis Landry, A.J. Green, Ronald Jones, Josh Allen, and Deontay Johnson. So in the 6th and 7th round, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total quarterbacks came off the board. Meanwhile, in the first 5 rounds of the draft, only 2 came off the board, so we really do like to see those quarterbacks go in the middle rounds of the draft. So now it is our turn to draft another running back, and like I said, if he was available, we're going to take him, and that is Mr. James White of the New England Patriots. Now, there are going to be people who want to take Antonio Gibson in this spot, and I wouldn't even disagree with you, because Antonio Gibson's upside is probably top 10 running back, strictly based off of not the fact that he's going to get a lot of touches, based off the fact that he's going to be worked in as wide receiver on the team. He's going to be getting touches as well in rushing, but as well as catching balls out of the backfield. So he's going to get a lot of opportunity to touch the ball in Washington. But he could also be a complete bust of a pick because he doesn't get the work. Bryce Love gets the work. Peyton Barber behind him gets the work. There's a bunch of guys behind him that could be getting the ball. So it is a risk. It is much more risky than drafting James White here. James White's safe. You know that Cam Newton in the past has dumped the ball off to a running back. Christian McCaffrey had over 100 targets each year Cam Newton was healthy playing there. So why would you not believe that Cam Newton could dump the ball off to James White? James White has been a top 12 running back in the past. Finished, I believe, as a top 10 running back just 2 years ago. Finished as a top 20 running back last season, and he does it through the pass catching work. This is a PPR league. This is the kind of league format where James White strives, and if Kareem Hunt was to go down, or any of these guys were to go down, James White would happily fly into my flex spot and be a very safe play on a week in and week out basis. I guarantee you Antonio Gibson has came off the board. He hasn't. He's not going to fall this far anymore. I feel like he's locked and loaded to go in like the 6th and 7th round. I highly doubt he goes in the 8th round of very many drafts. After we went ahead and drafted James White, Jordan Howard came off the board, followed by Carson Wentz, Marvin Jones, J.K. Dobbins, Drew Brees, Matty Snapback, Julian Edelman, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, Jameson Crowder, Zach Moss, Matt Breida, Sterling Shepard, Jared Cook, Philip Lindsay, and Darius Slayton. So now every single team has a quarterback besides us. The quarterback run was unreal. 3 rounds of just straight quarterback madness, which is great for us because now we don't have to hop on the quarterback train. Now you just wait. But the thing is, you have to make sure that while you're waiting, you stay cautious, because if someone takes a backup quarterback, then you have to hop on the run and draft your first quarterback. People will draft backup quarterbacks. So I'd say after the quarterback runs happen, before like the 10th round, you're probably going to want to take your starting quarterback, strictly based off the fact that other teams may take a backup, and then your starting quarterback will obviously suffer due to that, because they'll just be worse because way more quarterbacks get drafted than they should. But in some leagues, some people won't draft backup quarterbacks. I personally do not, but in some leagues, people are very heavily on drafting backup quarterbacks. They draft a backup tight end. Some people even draft backup kickers and defenses. So out of those picks, I really love Marvin Jones. I'm a huge fan of Marvin Jones late in draft. Same thing go with Julian Edelman, just super safe guys going later in the draft than they probably should. So we're probably going to go ahead here and pick more running backs and wide receivers. I just don't think we have to pick a quarterback yet. I don't think Tom Brady will go by the 9th round, so I'm probably just going to wait one more round and then pick him. Now, Antonio Gibson would be the pick here 100%. There's just no debating it. He has the upside in Washington, but would he actually be here in a real draft is my question. Would Antonio Gibson fall this far now? I have no idea, so I'm going to pick him, but I don't think in a lot of leagues he's going to fall this far. I think he's going to go much higher than this, strictly based off of hype. He's going to get hyped up completely, and then come tomorrow or Monday when you guys are drafting, he's just going to go way too high, and then you just fade him. It's pretty simple at that point. When a guy on the Washington football fucking team is going that high, that's not a wide receiver, he's a running back. I don't know why you would ever draft him in like the 5th round, in my opinion. So after we draft Antonio Gibson, John Brown came off the board, followed by Lat Murray, Brandon Cooks, Christian Kirk, Tevin Coleman, Emmanuel Sanders. And now we're going to go ahead and snag TB12 before these assholes start taking backup quarterbacks. Pretty safe pick to me. I love Tom Brady of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he's going to have an excellent year. We already have Chris Godwin to tandem with him. So if Tom Brady throws 2 touchdowns to Chris Godwin, we pretty much instantly win that week, strictly based off of that connection. So I love that, and I love Chris Godwin a lot, and I think Tom Brady is going to have an amazing year this season. After not having such a hot season last year, obviously they got derailed. They got fucked by the Dolphins out of their bye week, and then the Tennessee Titans ran them out of town over there in Foxborough, and now Tom Brady ended up on Tampa Bay. That was probably the last straw for Tom Brady. After TB12, after we went TB12, Deebo Samuel came out the board, followed by the San Francisco 49ers defense, CeeDee Lamb, Hunter Henry, Tariq Cohen, Marlon Mack, Anthony Miller, Darren Waller, Kerryon Johnson, Adrian Peterson, who's no longer on a team. Don't draft him. I don't think he's going to get picked up. I think his career is probably over. After that, we see Golden Tate, followed by McCole Hardman, Ravens defense, Bears defense, Deshaun Jackson, and then Mike Williams. So we do see some defenses go in the 9th and 10th round. Going to be typical. Going to happen in some leagues. Don't reach on the defense. You just go ahead and wait till later. The value you are missing out on at running back, wide receiver, maybe even tight end is too immense to be drafting a defense that early. I just don't get it when you can just draft one later and stream the position and pick up a new one every single week based off the videos I put out every week telling you which defenses I believe will have a good week. So now it's time to go ahead and look back at the screen and figure out who to draft. Now, reports are Lamar Miller has been cut by the New England Patriots. So now it's pretty evident. It's either going to be Michelle or it's going to be Hines. Not Hines. Michelle, or it is going to be the other guy whose name is escaping my brain right now. Damian Harris is his name. My bad. I completely forgot his name. Damian Harris or Sony Michel. So I draft Harris later, probably. Not really touching Michel since I worry about his injuries. But I do worry that Harris might not play week 1. So it's just a shitty situation. So James White's definitely the pick, though. Just get him earlier, and you feel much more safe with him. So after that, we are going to go ahead here and probably go running back or wide receiver here. Maybe we do go tight end, though, because Hayden Hurst is probably not going to come back to us. So that's exactly what we are going to do. We're going to snag tight end Hayden Hurst of the Atlanta Falcons. I talked about it earlier. The Falcons are going to be the most pass-heavy offense in the NFL. So why not draft the tight end in the most pass-heavy offense in the NFL that loves to throw the ball to the tight end? To me, it's not some type of super-duper space science. It's not some NASA shit. It's pretty simple. You draft guys that are in the right position to get points at the correct value in the draft. To me, he could be a top 5 tight end that you're finding in round 10. Seems like a steal to me. After we drafted Hayden Hurst, Preston Williams came off the board, followed by Pittsburgh Steelers defense, Jerry Jeudy, Justin Jefferson, Henry Ruggs, and Chase Edmonds of the Arizona Cardinals. So now we are going to go ahead and snag probably another running back. And let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs, and we have, 4, 5. We have 5 running backs. We have 3 wide receivers, so we have to hop back on the wide receiver train here before it gets completely derailed. So we are going to go ahead here and snag N'Keal Harry of the New England Patriots. I think he is a high upside pick with chances of being the wide receiver 2 on the Patriots, which pretty much seems guaranteed in my opinion now that they cut Mohamed Sanu. So now we're probably going to hop back on the wide receiver train and then draft a running back with our last pick before we go defense and kicker, since I feel like we do need at least one more wide receiver. After we went with N'Keal Harry, Darrell Henderson came out the board, followed by Duke Johnson, Tony Pollard, Alexander Mattison, 2 defenses, and then Curtis Samuel, Jalen Reagor, Evan Ingram, Damian Harris, Rock Armstead, Boston Scott, Rob Gronkowski, Brandon Ayuk, Paris Campbell, and Mike Licky on my Gesicki. So now it is time to draft another wide receiver. We're going to go with not with Robbie Anderson, because that guy's a bum. He was a Jet, and he actually had a good opportunity there, but didn't play all that well. Now he's going to Carolina to be stuck as like the wide receiver 3 on the team. He's behind Curtis Samuel. He's behind DJ Moore, behind Christian McCaffrey. No need to draft him. I'm going to go ahead with Allen Lazard and just hope that Aaron Rodgers throws him the ball, because the wide receiver 2 on the Green Bay offense could be very good. We thought that last year with MVS and Geronimo Allison, and they were complete dog doo-doo. But you all know who actually played pretty well last year? Allen fucking Robinson. So hopefully we can see Allen Lazard. So hopefully we can see Allen Lazard have another good season. After we went with Lazard, Blake Jarwin came off the board, followed by DeAndre Washington, TJ Hawkinson, Naheem Hines, Ben Roethlisberger, and Keshawn Vaughn. So now we are going to go ahead here and draft our final bench player. I'm going to draft Sony Michel here. He fell all this far. I don't know who's going to be the starter week 1. It probably will be Sony Michel, since Damian Williams is hurt. So with that said, not Damian Williams, Damian Harris is hurt, so maybe, just maybe, he's the starter all year, but I do worry about injuries with him due to the fact that he does have that arthritis knee, and he started the season, or started training camp hurt. Now he's finally healthy, or quote-unquote healthy. So after we drafted Sony Michel, Justin Jackson came off the board, followed by Darrell Williams, Chris Thompson, A.J. Dillon, Danny Dimes, Jared Goff, Joe Burrow, Patriots defense, Carlos Hyde, Justin Tucker the fucker, Josh Kelly, Austin Hooper, Brashad Perryman, Noah Fant, Aaron Rodgers, and now we got to draft our kicker and defense. First, we're going to go with kicker and get Mr. Harrison Butker the fucker of the Kansas City Chiefs. If you want kicker rankings, watch my kicker rankings video, and if you want to figure out how to draft the defense, I will tell you right now, you want to draft the defense playing an opponent week 1 that you think may struggle, and to me, that is the LA Chargers playing up against rookie Joe Burrow in his first ever game with no preseason. It's not rocket science, baby. Draft the Chargers. They're a good defense. They have an easier week 1 because it's going to be Joe Burrow's first ever game. Now, if this was like week 7, maybe I might think the Chargers are a little scarier there to pick, because Joe Burrow might be much better by week 7. But week 1, in his first ever NFL game, he's probably going to struggle. So our team is comprised. We got an A. So huge round of applause for us. For our recap, we got Tom Brady, Alvin Kamara, Le'Veon Bell, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Hayden Hurst, Keenan Allen to start off our team. Our bench is comprised of Harrison Butker and the LA Chargers. Actually, that's our kicker and defense. Our bench is Kareem Hunt, James White, Antonio Gibson, N'Keal Harry, Allen Lazard, and Sony Michel. So let me know what you guys think about this video. Let me know if you guys thought the draft was good. Let me know if you thought the draft was bad. Let me know overall how you feel about my picks. Let me know if you click that subscribe button, because I would really appreciate if you do that. Check out the Patreon down below. Also, check out Manscaped. I didn't even do the ad in this video, but if you guys want to have the cleanest balls in your league, get Manscaped. Get that ball deodorant. Get the Lawnmower 3.0. You can even shave in the dark, because the thing has a goddamn flashlight on it. Use code Notorious to checkout for 20% off, as well as free shipping. I love each and every single one of you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Actually, I'll see you guys tomorrow with yet another banger of a video. Goodbye!